What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, and stimulus check update. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, thanks for hitting the like button for us down below. Lots of things still going on here. The Biden administration is, first thing first, the Biden administration is probably going to be going through here with student loan forgiveness for over 40 million Americans. We'll start with this. Check this out.
All right, some news just in. The Biden administration is planning to cancel $10,000 in student debt per borrower. That is according to sources who spoke with the Washington Post. Two sources said that the latest plans will limit the debt forgiveness to those who earned less than $150,000 individually or $300,000 for married couples filing jointly. The Post says that President Biden had hoped to announce this news this weekend, but those plans changed after this week's school shooting in Texas. We've got somebody with us who maybe can talk a little bit about this right now. Let's bring in Joe Moglia. We're going to talk to him about what's been happening with retail investors, how this is different or the same from what we saw back in the year 2000. But Joe, because you are somebody who also has a lot of experience at Coastal Carolina, at other places where you've taught at higher education places, let me just ask you about this news first. What do you think about the idea of forgiving student loans? And somebody who's worked on both the business side, Merrill Lynch, TD Ameritrade, who has a real good idea about these things, somebody who's seen it at the school level. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, good morning, Becky.
Good morning.
I think, first of all, I don't know how anybody can feel bad if they're going to have part of their loan forgiven. I think one of the things maybe they might want to have considered is instead of doing $10,000, wind up doing X amount of percent across the board, so people that have greater debt, could get a little bit more of a bigger break rather than somebody that's got less debt. But I think it's a good idea, and I think the fact that you've got income caps on, I think it's a good idea. I think it can only be positive.
What about just the idea of setting this precedent that you take out loans, they're going to be universally forgiven? And there's a whole lot of people who feel like, wait a second, I paid back my loans, and now you're going to ask me as a taxpayer, which these loans aren't forgiven, they don't go away. It's going to be taxpayer debt that bails it out. I paid off my loans, and now I got to pay off somebody else's too?
Well, I think we did this once, and I don't know if we're going to set a precedent. I don't know if we're going to be doing this forever. But I think you make a good point. I mean, you're right. We as taxpayers, in effect, are picking up the bill. But I do think, I feel pretty strongly that, being able to borrow money to be able to go to college is a good thing to be able to do. If you're going to leverage, that's a good reason to do that. And almost everything we do as far as politics go, we talk about people that don't have as much are going to benefit from people that do. So I don't know if we're actually setting precedent. I had to think about that a little bit differently. But I think for now, right now, with where we are, I think it's a good thing.
Let me throw one more thing at you. I mean, it is going to be an inflationary measure. If you are an administration that's most worried about dealing with inflation, I mean, I know you're looking at the lower rungs and wanting to protect them from these things, but it seems to me that if you're dumping that much stimulus back into the economy, it's only going to be adding to the hyperinflation that we're dealing with right now.
Well, I think the other side of that, though, is the people, we talk about whether or not we're really in a recession. Everybody knows we have inflation. But the reality is, I think middle income families in our country already have a recession. This is very, very, very painful to most families in our country. So to be able to give the typical middle class family a bit of a break with regards to the prices and gas where they are and food where they are, transportation where they are, I think that that's a good thing in this era, in this time period.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here. Remember, there is over 40 million adults that have student loans here right now. And for most Americans, it takes them many, many years to pay on their student loans. In fact, tens of years, 10, 20 years to pay off their student loans. The average student loan payment is about $5,000 per year. Yeah, so it is very, very expensive, and we see all too many horror stories where people are paying on their student loans for 20 or 30 years because of how much interest it costs. We've seen the stories where People are paying on. In fact, I have this famous story. I guess I've kind of made this story famous. As you can see here, there's this tweet I've seen from Twitter from this just regular guy here, and he says here, "I'm 27 years old. I have $120,000 in debt from student loans from an undergraduate degree. He's been paying almost $1,000 a month, $970 a month for 5 years. So it's almost $12,000 a year. And he's paid nearly $60,000 in that time. And only $2,000 of it has gone towards his loan, towards principal. So of $60,000 of that, $58,000 has gone towards interest. Now, this is the problem with student loans. And really, this is the problem with debt in general, right? Is that interest eats it away. This is the problem with credit card debt as well, is that interest just kills you. And he says, I ask again, how is this even legal? And this is the problem. You have 18-year-old kids making decisions, taking on $100,000 of debt sometimes, and they don't even know what they're getting into. And a large percentage of kids, 18-year-old kids, sometimes 17-year-old kids, 19-year-old kids, don't even get a degree, and they take on tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and they end up paying on it for 10, 20, 30 years. And it's just life changing for them, and it's so difficult. Yeah. So you let me know your thoughts here. And you know, over 40 million Americans have student loan debt, and this is one of the stimulus type measures that they're considering. They have paused student loan payments for over 2.5 years, two and a half years now, and for everybody with federal student loans, which is about 95% of student loans. But eventually, those payments are going to start back up, and the average student loan payment is about $5,000 a year. As you can see here, some people are much more. And this is just one of the burdens on the on part of the working class of Americans. So what they say is, a lot of people say, go to college, get a degree, so you can get a quote good job, and this is part of the problem with that. You can let me know your thoughts here, and this is a burden on the working class of America. So not everybody chooses this path in life, and but if you do, you know that you get tens of thousands of dollars of student loans. Not everybody. I mean, some people get scholarships. Some people work really hard to pay it off. We did. We paid off my wife's student loans. So, I don't have any ill will towards that. We've already paid off her student loan, so we're not going to get any benefit if they do the $10,000 or more of student loan debt. I actually feel happy and thankful for anybody that does get extra help right now, because I just feel, I've read through so many of your guys' comments of so many people that need help. I feel that anything that comes through, the child tax credits, social security raises, stimulus checks. We've had 3 stimulus checks. We've had unemployment, the bonus checks. We've had the SNAP benefits, the pandemic EBT benefits, the bonus benefits. And hopefully we continue to see more of this. We're seeing all these state stimulus checks or tax rebate checks, all these different type of things throughout this pandemic right now. And we're going to continue to see more. We still have SNAP benefits going on here for dozens of states. And now we have dozens of states doing state stimulus checks and tax rebate checks, renters checks, and property tax rebate checks. I actually just did a really good video on that here in the last video or two. I'll link to that here at the end of this video, going over the states that have already passed or in the process of passing state stimulus checks, anywhere from several $100s to several $1,000s of state stimulus checks, because that's actually one of the biggest sources of stimulus checks right now, is coming from state money. This is because In the last stimulus package, they passed $350 billion from the last stimulus package that went to states. And that's one source of money for the states right now. And states are now passing their fiscal year budgets for this next upcoming year. And states are just saying, hey, okay, let's use some of this money and give back to our residents. And states are also now realizing, or now just kind of seeing, that their revenues are going up because unemployment is really, really low. It's at around a 50-year low here at 3.5, 3.6%. Part of this is because a lot of people have left the workforce, though, and have stopped looking for a job. So there is kind of that. It's kind of a tale of, a tale of two swords there, double-edged sword. And but nonetheless, is that a lot of people have gone back to work. And so state revenues have gone up, sales tax revenues have gone up, and the federal government's revenues have gone up here as well. So President Biden says that the federal government's going to have up to $1.5 trillion of surplus here over the next 12 months as they're taking in a lot more money here as well. So as the federal government is taking in a lot more money here as well, they will have more money for programs here as well also. So hopefully we will see more and more programs like this as well. Now, what's interesting here is I'm going to see a lot of comments here in the comment section of people that say, well, what about, or why do I have to pay this debt? And if you kind of really think through this, and again, I totally get it because I'm not benefiting from this. We already paid off my wife's student loans. And I could take the mentality that, why as a taxpayer, why do I have to pay for, somebody else's student loan debts? But if you really kind of think about it, right now, the government, well, at least in the past, the government has run a deficit. Okay, so really in the past, well, President Biden says in the future that we're not going to be running a deficit. We'll have to see if that happens. But at least up until this point, we have been running a deficit, which means that the government has been spending all the money they take in. So really, there hasn't been a surplus, which means that if they do anything over and above and beyond that, all the taxpayer money has already been spent. Okay. But on another hand, on another point here, is that the government is really just going to, it's kind of weird to say this, but they're just kind of write this off on the books. You ever seen the Seinfeld episode where they go, "Do you even know what a write-off is?" And Kramer goes, "No, but they do, and they're the ones doing it." As weird as this sounds, the government is just going to basically write this off on the books. Okay, who's going to pay for this? It's kind of weird to say, but the answer is kind of nobody. I know this sounds crazy, but the government is basically just has this on their balance books and they're just going to just waive it. It's one of those things where it's like, who's going to pay for it? And the answer is going to kind of really be nobody. If you really kind of think of like the stimulus checks, who paid for those? Nobody really paid for them. It just kind of went to they added a number onto the national debt that nobody really paid for. So, sometimes the national debt, like sometimes they take out money and, they raise money, they raise bonds. And in that case, there's money owed to somebody. But sometimes there's not. So, in this case, if the money's owed to the government and the government just waives the money, it's not necessarily going to be, the government's just going to say, okay, you don't owe us the money anymore. So the government's just going to take the loss or just going to write it off. It's very similar to some government benefits where the government just writes checks to people every single month it's not like a debt that's owed to the government. You don't pay the government back. When the government gives out SNAP benefits, food benefits, SSI benefits every month, it's not debt you owe to the government. The government's just giving those benefits out. Okay, it's going to be similar to student loan debt here forgiveness. The government's just going to kind of waive these debt forgiveness. So you can let me know your thoughts here. I know that this is going to be controversial. Honestly, there's been a lot of controversial things going on here right now. And I get it. I get it's going to be one of those things where it's like if it benefits you, you're it's amazing, it's life changing. And if it doesn't benefit you, a lot of people are going to be like, well, it really, it doesn't benefit me. But you got to kind of remember here that we're one large family. We're Americans. We should be thinking about us as a family. And remember that you might have friends or family that this will help. And, I get it. And, like I said, it's not benefiting me. But I am very happy for a lot of people that it will benefit if it happens. Remember, it hasn't happened yet. And but same thing with the like SNAP benefits, food benefits, pandemic EBT benefits, these state stimulus checks. I want to continue to see more and more state stimulus checks go out. I hope that all states do it. And I want to continue to be able to bring news like this to you guys here. So going forward, and I wish that more and more states would continue extra SNAP benefits and all these different type of benefits. So you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. And same thing with federal stimulus checks here as well. There's been a lot of talk here. I'll have to cover this here maybe in the next episode. Democrats starting to say that we need to use this reconciliation card here before this next election, or else we're going to lose it because election time is coming up here quickly. And, if they don't get on their horse, the problem here is going to be, well, I think you can guess, the problem here is going to be Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. And if they can't agree with, or if they can't get Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema to agree, they're basically going to lose a reconciliation card. Now, on the other side of the coin, you could say that if they could get the Republicans to agree, they could pass something as well. But, well, that's the state of Congress here, is that getting people to agree and actually pass bills is where the difficulty lies. Yeah, so that's a little bit of the struggle here right now. We'll talk about that here maybe in the next video. But yeah, so and that's where this next election is going to be important here. Biden's still going to be in there. He's on a 4-year term. And remember, the House of Representatives, they all serve 2-year terms each. So they're all up for reelection. Senators serve 6-year terms. So like Mitch McConnell, he was just reelected last time. So he's 2 years into his 6-year term. So he's in there. And Joe Manchin, he's still in there. He's about 3.5 years, almost 4 years into his 6-year term. Same with Kirsten Sinema. So they'll be up for reelection next time around, about 2 more years from now. Okay, so then we'll see if they're reelected. I think Kirsten Sinema is really going to be Joe Manchin. I'm not sure. He's got a little bit more of a footing in with West Virginia. He's a former West Virginia governor, and even though he's a little bit more of a I don't even know what word I want to use there. He's a love it or hate it type of guy. In West Virginia, he's kind of popular. He's kind of popular. Kirsten Sinema, not so much. Not so, even my wife's laughing there. And this is just kind of the pulse I get. And I'm not really choosing sides here. This is just kind of the pulse I get from reading everything from everything I read. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here in 2 years. So, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens here this year because Republicans, they take over. Obviously, things will change if they take over one or the other. We'll go back to how it was 2 years ago, where it's a mixed. Or Democrats retain everything, but what if they retain everything and gain one or two more seats, say in the Senate? Then Joe Manchin's not as powerful. You know, you have one extra vote. So Joe Manchin, you don't really need his vote. You have all the seats plus one more. So it's like, well, you don't have to worry about Joe Manchin so much or Kirsten Sinema so much. Or if the Republicans take over everything, yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see here. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. So I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. Make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, subscribing is completely free to do so. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see my new stimulus check video I just did. Really big information in there. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.